back to the Spooky Cinema. So Halloween is over, but if you are a subscriber of my channel, then that means that you like to keep a little bit of spooky season alive all year long, and so do I. So on that note, I wanted to talk about the new movie, The Heretic, that just came out this weekend, and it stars Hugh Grant, and the other actors, or the other supporting actors, they are Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East. Sophie Thatcher actually has been in a couple of other movies. The most recent that I can think of is The Boogeyman, which she did a really great job in that. And I just want to talk about the different things that I thought about this movie without any spoilers. So if you're here to find out whether or not I think you should watch this movie, then stay tuned. So first and foremost, what's this movie about? So this movie is, by the title alone, if you look up what the definition of heretic is, it basically means someone who doesn't really conform to or agree with something that is more widely or commonly accepted, especially when it comes to beliefs. So when you think about that and then watch this movie, it all makes perfect sense as far as to the choices that were made and the way that this movie plays out. It is intense, creepy, but definitely a slow burn. And I do have to say that the acting above everything else is fantastic. Hugh Grant does an amazing job in this movie. I would definitely say that I like his rom-coms and his comedic acting and his more lighthearted parts. However, I will say that I always kind of noted in his interviews this kind of dry sarcasm that always struck me as a little intimidating. So this movie basically just expounds on that, and I feel like they did a perfect job in casting him for this role, because he just does this really great performance throughout the movie of just being super duper creepy and making your anxiety build. And if you can think of any time that you've been uncomfortable basically in a room or in an environment with someone who basically talks in a way or dictates to you or lectures to you, then this movie is exactly like that, only magnified. That being said, did I love everything about it? No, but I will talk to you guys about what I did and didn't like, so that way you can make your decision on whether you want to see it in theaters or wait for home release. So like all my review videos, there are a few little tests that I do when it comes to these things, just so that way you can get an idea of how I felt and the things that I gauge a movie rating on. So one of them is called the trailer test. And basically what I'm doing is comparing what I saw in the trailer, which I try only to watch one trailer one time. I won't continually watch trailers because I fear that they will give away too much. So I will put that out there, because I know some people live to watch trailers and continually watch them until they're ready to see the movie. I don't want spoilers, so I prefer to just kind of hold off on that and wait till it's time to actually see the movie, and just kind of see if I want to see it based on the teaser trailer and go from there. So for this one, I do feel like it passed the trailer test for me. I know some people in the reviews that I read on IMDb did not feel that way, but I think when it comes to the definition of the title of this movie and the trailer combined, that you definitely get what you're being sold in the trailer, in my opinion. Another of the tests that I do is called the husband sleep test. So my husband is one who will not stay awake if he is not fully engaged or interested in the movie, especially if the pacing is not, consistent or lively enough. So I kind of should have known already that this was probably going to be a fail, but, it's kind of hit or miss depending on how the pacing of the movie turns out. And for this one, it was a fail. My husband fell asleep pretty much, I would say, a little earlier than halfway through. I didn't wake up till close to the end. And yeah, so if you're going to see this movie with someone who needs a lot of action in a movie, or if you're someone who needs a whole lot of action or jump scares in order to stay interested or awake, then this one may not be for you. Speaking of that, another test that I do or discuss in my reviews is balance. So how do I feel the overall balance of the movie was when it comes to different aspects of it? Like, for example, this one being kind of a thriller, how was the build-up or storyline versus the actual thrilling parts of the movie? For this one, I do think that it was a little too slow for me. I think that even though the subject matter calls for it to be kind of a slow build, there could have been more mixed into the middle of it to just kind of break up the monotony of it, because there's a whole lot of dialogue when it comes to Hugh Grant's character and a lot of him talking in circles, which is great because it makes sense for the plot. However, if they would add just a little more intrigue or just, I don't know, just something to break it up, then that would have been, to me, more interesting, because even some of the aspects that I know were intended to be more interesting or more like scary just didn't really add enough. I don't know. That's just me. But also, when it comes to a slow burn or a slow build, I really want the climax to pay off for that slow burn. So I'm fine with a movie kind of building up to something, but if you're going to take a while to get there, make sure that it really pays off in the end. Like, you end it with a bang that leaves me going, wow, I can't believe it ended like that. This movie definitely disappointed when it came to that, in my opinion. I don't think it was a bad ending. I just think that it could have been a stronger ending for sure. Another thing I like to comment on is, would I buy or rewatch this movie? And that is a two-part answer, and I would say it's a no and a yes, because I don't see myself buying this movie for my permanent collection, because I don't really think it's one that I will want to rewatch time and time again like a lot of the classics. However, I wouldn't mind rewatching it if it was free on one of the streaming services, because it is, like I said, quality acting for sure, but it isn't one of those that I see as being a classic enough to watch often, if that makes sense. Now, should you go and see this in theaters? So I think that that is kind of a yes or no answer, because there are a couple of caveats to that. If you are someone who is very strong feeling toward religious beliefs or religion in general, then this movie may do nothing but offend you, and if that's the case, then might as well steer clear of it or watch it when it's free. So that way, if you get offended, you can just turn it off and it's not a big deal. However, you don't want to have to sit there and walk out of a theater having spent the time and the money and then, just find yourself annoyed that you did it to begin with. The other thing is, if you're someone who doesn't really like slow burn movies, or you can't stand watching someone talk in circles, or anxiety building isn't something that is your cup of tea, this movie is kind of filled with that. So if those things also aren't something that you're interested in or want to see at all, then I would say this is a no. If you're someone who doesn't mind slow burn, really likes quality acting, and doesn't mind the talking in circles and questioning commonly accepted theologies when it comes to religion, then this is definitely one that you should see in theaters, because it has a lot of thought-provoking things that come up in it. More than anything, the acting is so strong that it really is one of those that I think is worthy of being seen in theaters for that reason, because Hugh Grant just does a stellar job, and the supporting actresses who are also in it just do a really wonderful portrayal of their characters, and you definitely root for them, and it is just something that you can't predict how it ends. You just kind of keep wondering what's going to happen. And as I've said in some of my previous reviews, I love when a movie can do that, because I am always so annoyed when I can predict everything that's going to happen, and in this one you absolutely cannot predict it all. So if those are things that sound interesting to you, then definitely check this one out in theaters. So overall, what was my rating for this movie? At the end of the day, end all be all, out of 10, I gave this one a solid 6. So the main reasons that I did not give it a higher rating is because, like I mentioned, I didn't feel like the ending was that strong. I also felt like the pacing was off. I think that they could have honestly cut out maybe 30 minutes of it and accomplished the same thing. And I do feel that there could have been some more excitement and better plot lines thrown in there that just made it more lively and exciting than it was. But overall, because the acting is just so strong, it's such a different storyline as far as the whole setup for this scary movie, that I just think for those reasons, you definitely can't knock it completely, in my opinion. I definitely see there being some awards for Hugh Grant in the works for this movie, because it is a stellar nonstop start to finish performance from him. So at the end of the day, I do think that it is worth seeing. But how do you feel? Are you gonna go check it out in theaters? Have you already seen it? If so, let me know in the comments below what you rated it. Also, if you're wanting to see more of my reviews, check out some of my movie lists that I will link in the description below. Hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.